Well, I guess it's about time to address that very large elephant in the room, being the Russian BMPTs and how these vehicles, in my opinion, have effectively destroyed battle rating 10.7. And no, I'm not saying that just for clickbait points either. And to prove my point, I'd rather show you, so here's a montage. I'm actually curious what my win rate is on this thing. Let's go look at it. Holy sh**. Oh, British tank. You guys can't kill me. I got him. Come on. Lower plate. This is insane. 3 tanks shoot at me simultaneously. PJ'd out. I have a nuke. I got a nuke just by me surviving. I didn't even have to get that many kills. That is ridiculous. Ah, look at all the BMPTs. Look at all my beautiful children. You just got your teammate killed. I'm literally about to get another nuke. Nuke number 2, back to back. That was stupid. Truly skill gameplay. Welcome to the whole W gang, ladies and gentlemen. Number 2. Bro, I have an 80% win rate. That is fucking nuts, dude. This is stupid. Yeah, welcome to 10.7 right now, guys. Stop abusing this thing. But of course, before we dive into today's topic, I do want to let you guys know really quick that everything I'm going to be talking about is based off my own personal experiences and opinions. So please don't take this to face value. It's going to be very much a tangent type of video more than anything. But I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and opinions on how we can possibly have this vehicle change for the better to make the environments just a little bit more comfortable. Now, for starters, I very much enjoy this vehicle. In fact, the BMPT is probably one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had with a Russian vehicle in quite some time, ever since the T90M came into the game. And the reason for that is very simple. I'm a Russian main, right? There's gonna be a bit of bias for it. Hence the joke I like to use in a bunch of my videos, stream titles, the whole bias, this and that. It's just kind of a play. To be honest, but this vehicle is something I've been looking forward to for many years now. Ever since I started playing this game around 2015, I had the hope that maybe just one day we would see this thing, or at least a variant of it at the time, in one of my favorite games, being War Thunder. Now, initially, when this vehicle was first introduced in the dev server, I thought it was going to be lightly DOA. The reason for that is very simple. The vehicle did not have its armor modules modeled at all, and it had a ton of fuel tanks, making me believe that this vehicle was going to be easily destroyed by any sort of heat round, if it got through the ERA, that is, any sort of spike missile, etc. But boy, was I absolutely wrong. I actually thought about deleting that video, to be honest, because it was just so incorrect. But I'm gonna leave it there, of course, because, you know, it's already been said and done, and I kind of save face anyways. But to push this vehicle's point just a little bit further about how broken it can be, even more so in experienced hands, I have not only an 83% win rate with this vehicle, which, don't get me wrong, I'm very proud of, but I also have just shy of 500 kills and just shy of 100 deaths in this thing, which kind of goes to show that, you know, maybe this thing might be a little broken. Now, do keep in mind, I don't consider myself a good player, nor the best. I've had many moments, even in my videos, where I drop the ball entirely. I forget a scout. I make a potato shot. You guys know I'm not shy about sharing that. But an 83% win rate, what's the average right now for the BMPT? Like, was it like 75 or 80% win rates? Which is kind of insane. But with all that being said, I'm going to walk you guys through how to properly destroy this thing, and I'm sorry to say, there really isn't too much of an option when it comes to the tech tree variant of the vehicle. More about the premium variant in a quick moment, but let's jump over into the hangar really quick. And you can see right here that I do have this thing kind of souped up a little bit. I kind of like the BM status of the rocket right here, where every time you get a kill, it throws out a little firework and it kind of gives away your entire position on the map. I would not recommend you guys use this on standard MBTs. Kind of put the these on your bully vehicles, much like the BMPT. Now, I just want to show you guys a couple of important things. For starters, ERA. Now, Russia has the best ERA in the game, bar none. Nothing even comes close to them, at least not yet. Anyways, I think the Oplot is one of the exceptions to that rule, but even then, it's still not even comparable to relics. You get over 250 millimeters of kinetic protection on top of chemical, of course. You have not only that ERA plate, which is pretty impossible to go through, even with some of the best rounds in the game fired from, say, the 292, which you won't be facing against anyways, or very rarely. Behind that, you have, of course, a spall liner, and then more spall liner. And not only do you have more spall liner, you have armored plates, roll homogeneous armor plates, which can and will absorb spalling. Yes, that's right. And not only that, you have more armor in the form of aluminum, which will absorb even more spalling, and below that, even more. And you have fuel tanks too, which, by the way, if you do shoot these, they will detonate outside of the vehicle, meaning that you don't have to use FPE. And when it comes to the munition found on the 30mm, which, by the way, I have found these guns to be insanely useless, even against trees. You use these to kind of annoy your teammates a little bit. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But more importantly, you have even more armor even behind the driver's port. Now, rule of thumb when it comes to Russian tanks is you shoot either the driver's ports, excuse my English, of course, it's very early in the morning, or you shoot at the lower front plate. But here's the problem. With all that armor already mentioned, it's very difficult to get into the carousel, which allows you to one-tap this vehicle. Now, is it possible? Absolutely. It does happen a lot, actually. But I'm going to show you a good clip right here that made me kind of angry about this. This was me playing my Leopard 2K in a full up tier against the BMPT, and it's going to go exactly as you would well imagine. And here's another for my IFE enjoyers, showcasing how there's very little you can do against this unless you're very lucky. And if you're curious as to why I didn't shoot the lower front plate, the 30mm cannot go through it at that angle, even at that distance. Here's another good example of the Challenger 2 going toe-to-toe with a multitude of BMPTs with both AP and hash. Can't even bash one. Nope. Okay, so hash is obviously not going to work. And before you start asking, I'm aiming for that ammo belt. So I got into a long fight with two BMPTs, couldn't win. I'm dead. He's gonna get my pipe right now. Yeah. So I'm going to bring out one of the most common types of vehicles you'll find at Battle Rating 10.7, the Leopard 2A4, firing its DM23 based off the L44 gun, which means you can average this around DM33 105, DM63 105, etc. Not the best, not the absolute worst, right? But it's a very common round. Now, obviously, if you're engaging this thing full bore frontally, you're going to want to engage, of course, the lower front plate, which unfortunately is not the most reliable shot. I mean, it can work, as you can see, but I don't really trust that too much. And of course, the driver's port. But there's a catch to it, and you need to understand this because I've made this mistake plenty of times. It's easy to look at this flat area right here like you would in a Tiger 1 or something and think, oh boy, I can kill it right there, right? Well, unfortunately, you are dead wrong because you run into the ERA and all the composite. You just got to aim a little bit lower, and it does help out pretty well for the most part. Granted, the vehicle might survive. You're really going to tear a new one. However, if you find this thing in a hold down position, there's not a whole lot you can really do. Now, of course, you can engage the ammunition right here, but it's a very small target and it's a very difficult shot to make, even more so if this thing is shooting at you, because if it sees you, it's gonna be spamming the hell out of you for sure. Unfortunately, I haven't been too successful destroying this vehicle using that method, but the same cannot be said for the premium variant of the BMPT, which only has 3 crew members, which means if you hit it in the driver's port, it's going to be very easy to knock out because, you know, it kind of has the same issue right here. Don't be fooled by this. Driver's port will knock it out, but there have been some instances where if you shoot the ammo belt right here, it does destroy the vehicle. And from what I'm seeing right here, it doesn't look like it's nearly well armored as it is on the regular BMPT, which is why I have a worse KD in this thing compared to the tech tree version. And I know what you're thinking. Go for the rockets, right? Unfortunately, externally mounted munitions are not going to kill this thing. As you see in many of my clips of my videos, streams, etc., shooting here is not going to kill this thing, I'm sorry to say. And then, of course, you have the one option if you decide you want to go ahead and do this. Let me go ahead and bring this out because it should be a lot of fun. What rank does it sit at? There you are. Yeah, if you bring this bad boy out, I think it's with a Hesh round. Okay, maybe not right there with this one. Give me 1 second. Is it the Hesh round? Yeah, it's right here. I've never done this, to be honest. Yeah, that'll probably blow up the tank. To be honest, I wouldn't be too scared using this, but come on, really? You want to bring this out to 10.7, 11.7 possibly? Not really, I think. Well, I guess that should give you a rough idea on what to expect with the BMPT. Now, don't get me wrong, skill issue was involved in those few moments, though I'm curious to know what you would have done in such an instance. Feel free to let me know down in the comments. But all of this leads into this next part, which is how to properly balance out the BMPT. Now, I've taken this bad boy out to top tier. I'll go ahead and play this clip in the background while we kind of talk through this a little bit. This vehicle can even still frontally face even some of the most modern tanks, the Leopard 2A7, M1A2 V2s, mixed battles, T90Ms, T80 BVMs. And you would be very well surprised how often players like to shoot at the driver's ports of most of these vehicles, only to be met by even more composites sitting right behind it, as we showed earlier. So that begs the question, how do you properly balance this thing even if you move it up in BR? Because I'm telling you right now, at battle rating 11.7 or even above that, it's not really going to matter too much, though you will start running into some hard issues against the vehicle itself. Take the Puma for a good example. That thing used to sit at battle rating 8.3 when it first came in, and that thing was a nuke printer at the time. I mean, back-to-back multiple nukes, double, triple nukes with other players on your team, right? It kind of feels like the same situation where it's a little bit too low of BR. You have a top tier tank, at least the chassis anyways, with some pretty mid-high tier firepower. The APDS found on this thing isn't the absolute best. I think it has a lot to do with volume of firepower and lucky shots taking their place. And the missile, albeit is a tandem warhead, doesn't have enough to really go through some of the most modern tanks it would be fighting at in a full up tier. Although overpressure does exist, and it will happen from time to time. And now to answer that very obvious question, how do you balance this thing? In truth, I don't really know. I would say obviously move this thing up in BR. I can definitely see it fighting reliably at 11.7 or maybe even 12.0, in which case it would do fairly well against modern tanks, and most players, I like to think anyways, at top tier kind of know what they're doing, which means they'll figure out how to destroy this vehicle very easily, because DM53, M829, every variant can go through that lower front plate without too much issue. Unlike DM23, 120, 105, even M900 at times has a little bit of a struggle going through some of the armor of this vehicle. And do keep in mind, the Puma, which now sits at battle rating 10.3, is kind of a useless vehicle. I'm saying that very lightly because it does have its moments, though at 10.3 with no missile launcher at all, it is kind of a struggle bus. So keep that in mind when you guys want to go more onto the whole, like, just move it up the top tier. Otherwise, we might have another Puma situation, and seeing that it's, you know, a Russian vehicle after all, we can't have that. But on the flip side, I understand that moving this up in BR is going to create a whole new set of problems when it comes to not the environment per se, the cost of the premium, that was the BMPT 72, which is a very balanced vehicle in my opinion. It's so much easier to kill than the tech tree variants. And the fact that this still fires only APDS. I can maybe see Gaijin giving them a single belt of APFSDS to kind of offset that just a little bit, but then that will create its own set of problems at top tier. But the reality of it all is I don't believe there is a proper way to balance this thing. Sure, you can say just learn how to kill this thing, or perhaps make the belt detonate, kind of like how the T72 variant of the BMPT works, which is pretty reliable. Maybe make some components a little bit more squishier. I don't really know. But what I do know is wherever you put this thing, no matter what, it's going to be very much a fun vehicle to play and a miserable time to fight against. But don't get me wrong, I still enjoy playing the BMPT very much, though fighting against it is a completely different story. Vehicles such as the Booker M10, the Boxer CRV, the OWS was such a miserable experience to play in this thing that I think right now, outside of, you know, BMPT content, I really won't be playing too much around this BR until Gaijin does something very drastic or different to balance this thing out just a little bit. Another solution too is when the original M1 Abrams and the Leopard first came into the game, Gaijin limited them to only 4 vehicles per team, which did balance out things quite a bit because whole teams full of Leopards and full of Abrams was just kind of a mess. Games were pretty small for the most part, but it did balance out the game quite a bit. Granted, back then, the average player count was roughly 30,000 spread across a bunch of game modes, so don't think that's going to be happening anytime too soon. That's another obvious choice, but for the time being, I don't really play 10.7 unless I want to really fight the BMPTs and learn how to kill them a little bit more efficiently, which is something I might end up doing. And if you're going to say, bring out the T58 or bring out the Doom Barn or something, I mean, you can, but come on, really, that's not practical. It really isn't. It's fun. Oh, it's fun as hell to smack BMPTs with it, but it's not something I would recommend, nor should it have to be done to play at this environment, in my opinion. But all in all, I understand this thing is kind of broken right now. I still enjoy it, and I'm still going to hate fighting up here, but I'm curious to know what you guys think about this whole thing. Is any of what I talked about going to mean anything? Is it a solution? Is there something better that I'm missing? Feel free to let me know in the comments, guys. Open up a discussion or debate. Let me know, please. And if I get enough proper information, I will forward that information to Gaijin to let them know, like, hey, this is a potential, you know, possibility to properly balance this vehicle so that we don't have to deal with what we're dealing with right now, because, man, it is not fun playing 10.7 outside of a BMPT. But yeah, anyways, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for listening to my tangent and just kind of going all over the place with this. I know it wasn't a very organized video, but I just had to get this off my chest and really deal with everything going on, because as much as I may enjoy this thing as a Russian main, I understand it is not healthy for the environment that I used to play frequently as a way to get away from top tier while still have it be top tier. Now it's just, it doesn't feel like that. But anyways, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this, and I'll see you next time.